In a previous video, I tried a new style of videos and editing with a live recording and explaining things on the fly as I play the game as well. You guys liked it a lot, so I am continuing the videos in this format and this style. Among many things that you guys asked me to make videos about, the most asked one was probably to show you my settings and my keybinds. Not only am I gonna show you the settings and keybinds, I'm also gonna go over every single setting, I'm gonna explain what it does, and I'm gonna tell you which one you should use and which one you should disable. And at the end, I'm gonna share a few bonus things that you can do outside of game to increase your performance. Tron and Liberty by default has a lot of settings and a lot of graphical settings and a lot of things that are pretty much useless, can cause a lot of clutter, where you can have issues with visibility and they hinder your performance. Going into the settings, the gameplay tab is going to be your main thing that you're gonna have to change all of the settings. As you can see, I'm playing action mode. Don't ask me why, I prefer it like this. Classic mode is pretty much superior in PvP, but I prefer action mode. First, you'll want to untick auto move to interaction target and prevent falling. This is to prevent you from moving to targets. Also, removing this is going to prevent you from moving to a target when attacking on its own when you're out of the range. You don't want that in PvP and PvE. You don't want your character to start walking forward when you're out of range. So the only thing you really want to use here is Q skills. This is a skill buffer which pretty much queues up a skill and shoots it as soon as it's available. If you have a lot of issues with high ping and input lag, this can help you have a smoother gameplay. And I also like to use toggle charge skills, which means I have to hold down a button that is for the skill that has a charging. So I press it once, I hold it, I release, and it shoots. Everything else should be turned off because it doesn't really benefit you in any way. Unticking all of these three will allow you to freely aim your AoE skills that require like putting on the ground like meteors or something like this, something similar. It's not gonna lock on the target, it's gonna let you freely move it. Here, another important settings is health level to start using Amitoy. I put it at 95% and to always use in PvP. So you can normally maybe put it on like 80% or something like that. So you can save a little bit of world trees, but you can buy them for Solon, so it's easy and it helps to heal you in PvP and PvE a little bit. Next, going into character tab. You want to put large scale combat mode on always use, so it's optimized for large scale combat. Ticking both of these will let you have a better transparency in large scale PvP. Now this is another important setting that removes all the skill effects from players. So if you want to show all, you're gonna see everyone's. If you put only show my animations, you're only gonna see yours. But you should probably only use show party member animations because you wanna see heals and buffs and other stuff that your supports and tank throw. So I use this. None of this really matters, this is pretty much all your preference. I like to see the cast bar, I like to see big damage numbers, I like to see all the debuffs. I don't really like the wind indicator because it shows an arrow underneath your feet and it can be kind of confusing when arrow is pointing in like random directions, so I have this disabled. This is another important settings. If you're a PvP player, you want to use user settings, hostile guild characters, put everything on right. This is going to make it so all the hostile guilds, they're gonna have their name and they're gonna have HP bar and you're gonna be able to see them all the time. And for friendly characters, miscellaneous characters, you also want to put it on. You want to put it on a guild mark for friendlies, but turn off names and health, so because you don't need to see that. You will only see a guild icon of all of your guildmates and your allies. And this is all the other characters that are not in your guild and that are not hostile. You don't need to see them, so you don't need the guild. So you can pretty much even turn that off so you don't see it, but I like to have it on this relationship mark so I just see a little icon above their head. NPCs, you can turn it off. This is all preference to you. You can use this to hide your weapons and when someone inspects you. For example, if you go into ranking and you go into someone here inspect, see he has this enabled, I can see his weapons. If you put someone else, you see he has it disabled, so you cannot really see what he has because he disabled it with this setting. So if you wanna, hide your stuff, you can untick this. And here you can hide your Amitoy and you can hide other Amitoys. I don't like to see them, so I pretty much hide them. Targeting, I'm using search by order of priority. In PvP you want 1, 3, 4 and 5, and for PvE you also want to include 6, and you also want to include 9 and 10. In PvP you will want to turn these off because you don't want to target random mobs around you. Rest, here nothing matters. In item, this pretty much you can leave it as it is by default. None of this really like affects anything. If you have like any preferences you can turn it off and try it out. Camera rotation speed, I have it in 89, doesn't really matter, personal preference, but this is important. Turning both of these off removes camera smoothing. Here, if you like shake effects you can use it. I don't like it, it makes me dizzy, so I turn it off. Under content, what's important here is pretty much that you disable all of these three. This is to display glide control, swimming controls. When you're like flying, you know, it's gonna appear like right here, like a tutorial. Like you don't need this, like you already know what buttons to press, so you don't need any of that. And pretty much when you're fishing, if you don't want the animation you can turn it off, so you're gonna have like a fixed camera. So this is also personal preference. Here in chat, also personal preference, nothing really matters here. You can use auto translate if someone is writing like weird language, like it's gonna auto translate it. But I'm on an English server, so it doesn't really matter. Here under UI, also everything is personal preference. I have it all left on default. Doesn't really matter, you can change the sizes of everything you want. Language, I have display and voice in English, and standard time, nothing too crazy here. Under notifications, I pretty much have everything turned off. This, I don't even know what this does because we don't have siege or tax delivery yet, so I just keep it on, but everything else is just off because I don't really care about notifications. Now under graphics, this is important. If you have NVIDIA DLSS, if you have 40 series NVIDIA card, you have access to DLSS. I use it on balance and I use frame generation. Whatever someone says that it might cause you input lag, it's an MMORPG, doesn't really matter. I don't feel any difference. It gives me literally doubles my FPS. Keyring quality, I already made another video going over all of these settings and explaining what it means. So I'm just gonna quickly like scroll through and you can just pretty much copy all of these. These are like the best settings you wanna have. First you put the overall settings on high and then you pretty much disable whatever you want. You want to disable view distance on low, you want to keep character count on high. Another thing that you want to disable is all four of these. Level of detail on low, volumetric clouds on low. You can have volumetric fog on low as well, I like it on high for the visual. And shader preloading on high, and this is very important. Disabling hair strands is literally gonna triple your FPS. So disabling this is very important and using both of these to optimize for large scale combat. Sound, everything is personal preference here, nothing really matters. Use it as you prefer. Voice chat, I don't use it. I don't use any of these stuff, so it doesn't really matter, it's all personal preference. Now for the shortcuts, a lot of you wanted to see my keybinds. So the most important things here that I changed is that since I play on action mode, my basic attack and defense skills aren't on Q and E. I use left click and right click, don't ask me why, it's my personal preference, just something I get used to and I prefer it this way. I of course use tab to change targets as well. Another settings I changed is stop basic attack and cancel target. I put it on V because it's close to my thumb, and when I accidentally target something I don't want to target, I just cancel it. Another thing is astral vision based on my character. I put it on Y. This doesn't really matter because I don't really use astral vision, but if you play on classic mode you might want to take advantage of using astral vision in PvP. Summon Guardian I put on 8. And this is PvP counter attack, also very important in PvP. This is pretty much gonna allow you to press, with a press of one button, you're gonna instantly target a person that is attacking you. In large scale combat, this is very important as there's gonna be a lot of people and you're not gonna know who's attacking you. But as soon as you start receiving damage, I press C, I instantly target that person and I can burst him down before he kills me. Nothing else here really matters. Everything else is like personal preference. Here in UI, nothing else really matters. That much, you can set it up as you want. I have main menu on F10 and hide UI on Alt X. These are the only things that I change from the default. Now when it comes to shortcuts, In every MMORPG I use 1, 2, 3 and 4 for the first 4 skills. Then I use mouse 5 and mouse 4, these are side buttons on mouse. Since I use left and right click on mouse and I'm in action camera mode, so I move my mouse around, this comes very handy and useful. And then all of these are buttons that are close to W, A, S and D that I can press quickly. Here, nothing really is important. All of this is pretty much standard, the default stuff that you can change to your personal preference. Under accessibility, you will want to turn off motion blur. Under controls, it's pretty much the same thing as you had in the gameplay. Camera rotation and use shake effects. If you want to use shake effects, use it. If not, it's your preference. None of this here is important. It's all the stuff that we already went through. Here in privacy, you can pretty much disable everything, so nobody can talk to you, nobody can DM you, nobody can see your online status, nobody can add you to any group chats, nobody can send you friend requests. You can set this if you want to be totally anonymous and nobody's gonna know who you are and nobody's gonna see you. Now for some bonus tips outside of the game. First and foremost, you will want to update your GPU drivers if you have NVIDIA. They released 2 days ago, specifically targeted for Throne of Liberty release. They introduced a lot of changes and you should definitely update the drivers, and you can see, probably gonna see some changes to your FPS and better performance. This is very important, and it's always important to keep your GPU drivers updated. When you update your GPU drivers in your NVIDIA control under Manage 3D settings, one important thing that you should change and not leave at default is power management mode. Putting it on preferred maximum performance, this is gonna increase the performance of your GPU and it's gonna increase your FPS overall. Next important thing, you'll want to go in your search bar in your Windows and you want to type %appdata% and hit enter. Then you're gonna go into app data folder, go into local, find TL, go in saved, go in config, Windows no editor, and you want to take everything that you have in this folder and copy everything somewhere outside of this folder, somewhere on your desktop. This is pretty much to save all of your settings, because I can assure you that some of you experienced a crash in the game, or server died, or the game just randomly disconnected, and when you reconnected, when you start the game again, all of your settings were pretty much reset. And what this means, these are all the settings where all your keybinds, all of your graphical settings are saved. So copying all of this once you fixed all of your settings and keybinds in game, and then pasting it back in and replacing it is gonna help you with the settings resetting after your game crashes. Or you can just simply go into the game and take a screenshot of each settings, save it something so you know exactly what you need to change it on if you prefer it that way. And this is pretty much everything that I use. All of the settings, all of the keybinds, all of my graphical settings, and hopefully this can help you achieve the same performance and same visibility that I have in both PvE and PvP. And before I end this video, I quickly want to mention that I will have an updated build guide for Longbow Dagger. There has been some changes in gear, some changes in skill specialization that I did since the game released in global compared to the Korea and the video that I made. Expect in the next few days an updated version of that guide with all the new build variations and all the new gear that we can use for the build. So if you don't want to miss that, consider subscribing. I appreciate you watching, and also watch some of my other videos appearing on your screen.